Sorry. Oh, that was close. I might have needed my credit card there. Cut them up, get rid of them. You know, don't feed the system. Don't feed the system. Work in cash, you know, as much as possible. And don't use these loyalty cards. You know, it's all geared towards trying to create a social conditioning where they monitor behavior, they've got the information going into the database. Yeah. Just think about what's occurring. As Dave touched on, I mean, for the last 9 months now, I've focused very much on Codex Alimentarius. This is a big, big, big part of their agenda. You know, basically, the food that most of us are eating is shite. Do you know what? The farmers in this country feed their animals better than we feed ourselves. Because livestock is expensive, and you have to look after it. People need to be sick, because people are a revenue stream for the pharmaceutical companies. So what's happening is going through this very, very vicious cycle that's starting with, well, first of all, it's a Club of Rome committee, let me tell you that, but it's GM crops. All of the nutritional value is being sucked out of crops. You know, the minerals are being sucked out, the nutrients are being sucked out. Basically, you might as well eat cardboard. And in fact, in some cases, cardboard will be more nutritional, but that's another stuff. And look at what's happening in Iraq. I mean, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, the US government forced the new government of Iraq to sign legislation making it illegal for the Iraqi farmers, where civilization started, making it illegal for Iraqi farmers to save their seeds. They have to buy their seeds from Monsanto, and each of the Monsanto seeds they buy have the suicide gene in. And this is what is coming. How are they going to remove organic farming? Simply by removing the requirement for labeling. I mean, already organic produce that you buy in Tesco's is only slightly more organic than the shit that is declared not organic. Because what they're doing, the Codex Alimentarius Commission are forcing the EU and other trade groups around the world to basically reduce the criteria for what is classified as organic. You know, the only way something's organic is if you buy it from basically a farm that says they're an organic farm and it's still got dirt on it. Because the food is being irradiated, that's the other thing they want to do, so that any food that travels is irradiated. So basically, you're eating junk. And who's there to the rescue? The pharmaceutical companies. You know, it's a symbiotic relationship. The food companies get you ill, the pharmaceutical companies keep you ill. But in keeping you ill, they also help you live longer. You know, a few years ago, what tended to happen was people lived a pretty damn good life, very healthy life. And when they started to get ill, whenever that might be, that was pretty much the sign that, you know, time on this mortal coil was coming to an end and their life would sort of, you know, go over very quickly. But now what happens is, you know, we inject mercury and other crap into the system for our babies, you know, 26 times or whatever it is before the age of 5. And then, you know, we're getting pills fed into them, get them on the kiddie coke. I mean, Ritalin is like cocaine. I mean, the medical profession, the medical scientists don't even really understand how this works, because Ritalin is a stimulant, but actually in the youth it has the opposite effect. And of course, to make sure that there's a big market for Ritalin, then what you do is you encourage the food companies to put as much aspartame into the food as they possibly can, especially in food that's targeted at young children. You know, it's there. It's all there. The British government, by the way, spent £28 million last year on Ritalin. In America, 10% of all children of school age are prescribed Ritalin. And there was a documentary a little while ago that, fortunately, somebody recorded for me and sent to me. And in that, there was a hyperactive child. She was hyperactive, probably due to the 6 cans of Coca-Cola. Pepsi-Cola, actually. It was Pepsi-Cola. That's far worse. 6 cans of Pepsi that she was drinking, plus all the other junk that she was eating. Anyway, she was given Ritalin, and her mother, in the documentary, was asked how she felt about her child being on Ritalin. And she said, well, you know, she said, it makes my life a bit easier, but it's not my daughter. It it completely rips the soul out of the child. And of course, the whole idea here is that Ritalin is the kindergarten for Prozac. And the best-selling drugs in the world. It's all about keeping the population dumbed down so that you can't see these guys taking the piss. Because that's exactly what they're doing. This is a book that I eventually managed to acquire after much searching, Corporate Crime in the Pharmaceutical Industry, written, ironically, in 1984 by a guy called John Braithwaite. And you know what? When I heard about this book, I thought, I've got to get this book. And as I was trying to find it, I was told that actually the pharmaceutical companies had bought up every copy of this book. And it was really difficult to get hold of a copy. And you know what? A few days later, the way these things do, I stumbled across somebody who'd got an unreturned library book. And I paid 54 quid for it. But if you try and buy one of these, they're often over 100 quid. But it's a superb analysis of the bullshit that goes on in the pharmaceutical industry. And this is 25 years ago now. And John Braithwaite couldn't understand why it was that when he interviewed the senior executives of the pharmaceutical industry, they all seemed like, you know, nice family men. But as soon as they got round the boardroom table, it was like Jekyll and Hyde. You know? Well, I'm sure Joseph Mengele was probably a nice guy at a dinner table. Yeah? This is what the corporate world does. You know? And I speak from personal experience. 20 years, you know, was wonderful education. But after 20 years, you know, it just wasn't resting easy with me at all. But these guys, I mean, the way it sucks you in, of course, is the rewards are enormous. And in 2002, the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the world, their profits were greater than the profitability of the other 490 companies in the Fortune 500 put together. And the chief executive of Pfizer, his compensation package for that year was $74 million. Life's tougher. This is a different world. So for Big Pharma, I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about this. I mean, their agenda is that from the moment of conception to the moment of death, and they'll prolong it as long as they possibly can, you are a revenue stream. I love the Walter Matthau quote. Just as, I mean, he was dying. I mean, this is in his final days, because he never lost his sense of humor. And he said, you know, he said, I went to the doctor. He gave me 6 months to live. But when I told him I couldn't pay him, he gave me 6 months more. So food and pharmaceuticals are the primary reasons, primary methods by which these guys are determined to make sure that the slave race doesn't challenge their agenda. But there's other ways as well. And I'm sorry, but anybody who tells me that this is a natural phenomena is either delusional or controlled opposition. I sat in the park a few weeks ago with my young son. It was a beautiful morning, beautiful winter's morning, clear blue sky. And I was actually sort of enjoying, I mean, it's crisp air, but I was enjoying the natural sunlight. And then the planes started to come across. And I called a friend of mine, who's a photographer in Paynton. And I said, Simon, you better get your camera out and take these photographs. And within an hour, the haze was just across the sky. And of course, we didn't see natural sunlight again for 2 days. Yeah. This is the other technique. One of my friends in Totnes, he broached this subject with Anthony Steen, the sitting MP in Totnes. Now, clearly, Anthony Steen had never come across this issue before. My friend, he took all the photographs that he'd taken over the Totnes area, showed to Anthony Steen, and Anthony Steen actually went to the local paper and said, one of my constituents has raised this issue, and I'm going to ask the Ministry of Defence what this is all about. And do you know what? First of all, he didn't exactly rush back to my friend, but eventually, when my friend turned up at his surgery and pushed him on the issue, do you know what he said? He said, you know, if we were in power, then I could ask a few more questions, but actually we're not in power and it's very, very difficult to get information. And my friend said, so the bottom line is you've been warned off. Well, I wouldn't say that, but it's very... He's an archetypal MP with his snout in the trough. The next way, of course, see what's going on right now. You're all being fed this bullshit that we've reached peak oil, that we're running out of oil.